for all these teams.
Well, we have got through
Speaking
that
of
delay on the stage, and there is the first pocket pick getting banned away. Ceros is a very well-known Heimerdinger player. It's 5-1 on it throughout the course of this split, and so it is immediately taken away. And there's the Rise ban, so we're not going to see any more Rise for this game, at least, Frosk.
Something that has been slipping through a lot, which used to be a mainstay on red side bans, was the Sylas. He's getting a lot more attention this tournament. I feel like he is still taking off, so I'm curious if Detonation Focus Me are going to follow suit, or if it is just going to be, you know, sizing each other up and just start layering on the target bans.
We'll see. We've got Kalista being removed, Vladimir as well taken away by Mega. Mega on their final ban of this first phase. Things like the Aurelia, like the Sylas, so quite a lot of power still available. Akali as well on the cards.
Super high priority there, as Galio makes a lot of sense. Both these supports are playmaking oriented supports. Should be noted that there's Korean imports, 2 of them on both Mega as well as Detonation Focus Me.
In the same roles
in the jungle and support position.
Steel and Gaeng came across, Jjun and Pop as well for the side of Mega. The Jace, the final ban. So, what is first pick worthy? Akali, we talked about it, still on the menu, and it will be locked in straight away for Mega.
Now, it can be a flex pick. The thing about Rockky is that he's more of kind of a, they call him a stable top laner. He'll play whatever you need him to do. Low variance, kind of an all-rounder. The immediate response, though.
Let's go, Sona-Taric! I actually used to be called Sona the Caster before I joined Riot, and I had to change my name.
So this is your meta?
This is my meta. If you can play Sona in the bottom lane, you hit people with that power chord, they are not enjoying themselves.
I will say that I think that this actually puts even higher priority on a Kindred, as we saw Jjun flash that one. So the thing about Sona-Taric, I'm sure you guys have all seen it globally, it's really hard to team fight against. It's just very hard to crack that lane or crack the damage and the shields that, excuse me, the healing and the shields that you're getting out of. And when you pair it with something like a Kindred, think about that. You got the healing from Sona-Taric, you have the invulnerability, you have the CC lock, and then you throw a Lamb's Respite on top of it. If that team ever gets ahead, it's almost impossible to 5v5 your way out of it.
Very difficult to team fight against. We will break down exactly how the laning mechanics work when we get on into
We've
the
tested
game.
it.
We have tested it. We've played it together. I believe we won with it as well. It was a good game. But there's the Jarvan. Braum picked up by Mega. Detonation Focus Me are going for that Kindred, it looks like.
Yeah, but they still have a lot of flex picks on the side of Mega. It should be noted that they do have a Warlock as one of their coaches behind them and a Korean coaching staff. And something that Mega were really complimented by a lot of analysts in the region is their ability to win drafts. They are a very flexible team. They don't really have a super defined play style because they can kind of pick and choose what form they morph into by how the champion select goes.
Well, we'll see if they win this draft. Detonation Focus Me should be pretty happy. It looked like with the insta-lock Sona-Taric, the Kindred alongside it for that extra healing, for that extra teamfight presence. They'll remove the Varus on the red side. Mega are going to get rid of Karma, and Lucian is the next ban from DFM.
Varus was one of the picks that teams were experimenting with by taking it into Sona-Taric, trying to alleviate a lot of healing potential there. And the other one that we saw was the likes of Blitzcrank, but with the Braum already locked in, you'd assume that it's still going to be something hyper aggressive, because that seems to be the go-to. Okay, I'm against Sona-Taric, I must break this in the lane phase when it's still weak.
So the things we have seen, as you say, Blitzcrank, aggressive bot lane, or funnel comps. Those are the 3 things I've seen defeat a Sona-Taric. Kayle locked in here for Detonation Focus Me. They've played that once. Evi played it in the top lane. And it's another scaling pick, another team fight presence.
And this is pretty standard for Detonation Focus Me. They like to kind of play their lane phases pretty quiet. There's no one who's just going to hard win their lane, and then they kind of pivot around there. They can play out into the side lanes, but really it's about stacking as many team fighters as you can together, and then just waiting for Yutapon and Evi to be ready.
Is Tristana aggressive enough in the bottom lane for Mega? You can jump in. If Jjun spends some time down towards that bottom side, maybe they'll be able to get that ball rolling against Sona-Taric.
And I think that's why it was so clever from Detonation Focus Me in their ban. I know that we just praised Mega, but the fact that Kalista, Lucian, and Varus weren't available, your only other option for a lot of priority in that push would be something like an Ashe. But since you see the Kayle, I think grabbing Tristana can give you some of that push priority back, so maybe you can abuse the Sona-Taric, keep them locked under their lane, and open up the jungle, as well as hyper scale alongside the Kayle, so that you also have a late game insurance policy.
A lot of scaling alongside that, you know, Akali so powerful in the late game. Viktor has a lot of damage as the game does progress as well. Ziggs picked up by DFM. That is a stalling team fighting comp if I have ever seen one. We asked if they take the skill matchup. We asked if they take the skill check in the lane, the 1v1s. That's not DFM style. They play for team fighting, they play for objectives.
Yeah, and we may be playing for a very late game. We also had some questions about game time. It felt like Group A was just at a breakneck pace.
More than a kill a minute in most of the games yesterday, but I think we all expect this group to be a little bit more measured, a little bit calmer in the early game.
Yes, but not if Mega have anything to say about this. So for me, this is Detonation Focus Me are on kind of like a timer. If they can get out of the lane phase, if they can get to their 5v5, and they can execute on what is a very strong team fighting comp, then I'm like, yes, this is exactly where Japan want to play. They're in their pocket. They know how to do this. Mega, on the other hand, can just break this game apart, as well as the fact that they have so many options that they can play a 1-4 towards that side lanes if Akali gets snowballed ahead, whereas Kayle can, you know, eventually maybe take care of it, but until then, a lot of questions.
There are a lot of questions. If DFM fall behind, you have to think it's Mega's game for the taking, but we will keep our eyes on it. The first game of Group B, and what a game it looks like it's going to be. Sona-Taric picked Kayle, Ziggs, and this is 9.8 Kayle as well, remember. This is like post her incredibly strong 9.6 days. When she's been nerfed, it's a Viktor top lane and Akali in the mid lane as well. I'm excited for us. This is going to be a barnstormer of a game.
And I feel like this is really, again, the proving grounds. These teams, one was contested in the regular season, one was not. Mega have never really had to play from behind, so we'll see if that starts today or if they're just going to continue this steamroll through MSI.
Is that something doing TSM in the background? That's what I could hear.
They're a global brand.
They are. Oh, it's DFM. Of course it is. DFM, not TSM. Anyway, some Japanese fans in the audience. We do apologize for that top overlay. We'll get that fixed in just a second's time. We do have a pause coming out as well. And as we have this pause, talked a little bit about the overall play style for the game, how these teams want to, match up into each other as the game develops. But if you are Mega, if you're Jjun here, where are you looking at breaking the map? Where are you looking for those first couple of ganks?
I mean, I think it's about just creating safety for your lanes. Jjun is a guy that he doesn't necessarily just have to hard camp his lanes. It's more about your pathing, the information that you gather from the enemy jungle, and then where you can take micro advantages from there, and then kind of wait for the perfect moment to strike. Again, he's known as a pathing jungler, but he can really hit anywhere. I think you'd want to keep G4 pretty safe, but I don't know what he's going to be able to do in that lane. It's like Akali versus Ziggs. Ziggs, if he wants to, doesn't have to lane.
Yeah, he just walks back and puts the explosive minefield in front of him, clears out the minion wave, and then just walks away. And
that's kind of the Ceros special. If you actually watch how he lanes, he is a very big utility mage player, again, known for his Heimer, and his like core identity and responsibility in Detonation Focus Me is I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to soak attention. I'm going to be super obnoxious, just clear out farm waves and just constantly pressure forward. You're never going to get mid priority. You're never going to be able to roam if I have anything to say about it.
We'll have to keep our eyes on exactly how Ceros wants to push out that lane. We do just have a keyboard issue for Detonation Focus Me. Should be getting resolved as soon as possible, obviously. I do think I want to talk a little bit about this Sona-Taric bottom lane. It's a playstyle, sort of a strategy we have seen arise a few times. We saw it in the LEC finals, but explain to me exactly what this is designed to do and how it works.
It took us a couple goes to get it to work.
Yeah, it did.
So what Sona wants to do is she wants to upgrade her support item as quickly as possible. So for the first few early levels, all she wants to do is just stab people in the eye. She's just right there. She's slamming her power cord. She's trying to stack as much gold as possible, and Taric is responsible for picking up the CS. Once she has that support item upgraded, they then swap, and Sona will start picking up the CS, but she's looking for very quick back timers. What's interesting to me is that they also took barrier and heal. It's not super outside of the box, but if you really have confidence in this lane, a lot of times Sona will run teleport, and she literally at like 4 to 5 minutes will stack the spell thieves and then immediately TP back to the lane and then just start snowballing your 5v5 power that much faster.
Yeah, you want to be able to upgrade that item so you get more gold off the stacks, and then as soon as you complete the quest, we'll start seeing that Sona take the CS away from the Taric. And it's all about the healing. The other time I've seen this lane broken, apart from the funnel comp and the blitzcrank, is when people get an executioner's calling really early in that bottom lane. I saw a Sivir do it in one of the regional leagues. Can't remember exactly which one it was, but you're not 100% sure that a Tristana is going to do this. And it's a bit interesting to see Lloyd and Pop go for the barrier ignite combo, barrier heal combo themselves, and no ignite in that bottom lane.
Yeah, I was expecting that they might go a bit more aggressive. Maybe they're saying that we should have push priority here. Sona and Taric, one of the issues is that Taric really has to be on the minion wave because he is farming, and it's harder to just kind of like blatantly walk up. Now, I was actually talking to Spawn about this. Taric is really cool into Braum because of the play patterns. Because if you think about when Braum actually wants to go in, he jumps forward, and oftentimes the 80 carry is perfectly positioned behind him, which makes it so easy for Taric to land a stun.
Double dazzle.
Exactly. So as we watch this lane, we'll see if Lloyd and Pop ever fall into that trap. If maybe the jungler like Steel decides to take a trip down bottom to Yutapon and things do go aggressive.
We will be very aware of that bottom lane. I'm sure we'll scroll down there as often as we can. Expect not too much to happen in the mid lane. Do want to have a quick chat about top as well here, Frost. Viktor into Kayle is not a matchup we too commonly see, but as far as I know, still on 9.8. Kayle is very susceptible in the early game. If she gets ganked, she can be put quite far behind.
I mean, the idea is that you take the Klepto, you try to roll the dice, see if you can get one of the elixirs there of skill so you can get the early passive. But otherwise, we've seen a lot of mid laners try to max their Q and try to farm from afar. I expect this to be priority for top side and Jjun to really exploit the top side jungle. And then maybe if things get frisky, he also does have priority between Lloyd and Pop and maybe looks for a kill there.
Jjun is always the catalyst for this mega lineup. He's the guy we're looking at to try and get them those early game leads if they want it. On the side of Detonation Focus Me, they will be playing slower. They'll be playing back a little bit more. But we talked a little bit about this, and I want to just kind of big picture on Detonation Focus Me for a short time here. They were quite dominant in the Japanese leagues, the LJL, when it first kicked off. You know, they won the first few, then they started losing. We saw Rampage and Pentagram step up, and this last 6 months, 8 months, basically since Worlds of last year, we've started to see Detonation Focus Me take the fall once again.
Yeah, and it's this idea that, you know, this is probably the premier organization from the LJL. They're definitely a fan favorite since 2013. They've been around. They only disappeared for 2 years, 2017 and 2018. So the immediate memory for a lot of international fans is probably more on Rampage and not necessarily Detonation Focus Me. That's a mouthful of a name.
DFM.
I'm really afraid that if I approach that acronym, I'm going to end up with the wrong one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can see that. I can see that concern, Froskurinn. We'll stay clear of it for the moment. Oh, anytime you need me to say Destination Focus Me, just tap me on the shoulder and I'll say it for you. And that's how we'll work around that.
This is going to be a 1907 situation all over again. But I took a closer look at a lot of their VODs. I tried to watch them throughout the course of the season and not just their final to really get kind of like a feel what the development of the league was, what the progression of this team was. And again, their record is like 20-1. They were super dominant if you just look at the scoreline. But every single game that I peeked in on them, they were dying in the lane phase. They were, you know, taking skirmishes that they just could not win and giving away gold advantages. And constantly they were trying to fight from the back foot. But it's almost like they have this inbuilt confidence that it doesn't matter, that as soon as Evi and Yutapon are ready for team fights, that they just roll over the rest of their league. So it was really hard for me to gauge the strength of Detonation Focus Me.
It is always really difficult, especially when you have a key carry like Evi in that top lane. He has been so consistent on Detonation Focus Me, so strong on them. It was actually with Rampage before he joined this team. And it's great to see a guy like this consistently perform on the international stage and really step up, especially when we've seen top laners in Group A have so many strong performances. I'd like to see him really be the carry for this team coming through Group B.
I mean, this guy is a giant in the league. He is head and shoulders above any of the other competition. No one came close to Evi. Yeah, occasionally he would fall down to a gank that maybe he wasn't suspecting, but he soaks up a lot of pressure, a lot of attention. He plays virtually everything. Most of the time, they want to get him on some sort of carry. Kayle definitely fits that bill because this guy is just a beast.
Is there a point, like, we talk about Kayle as a carry, but is there a point at which she, like, really comes online? We used to be, like, level 11. Level 16 is, like, she's perfect. She's in the greatest spot ever. No one can beat her ever in the game. But are we looking at level 11? Do you think she can fight before that?
I mean, I feel like it's any time that her passive is stacked up and she just walks over to you. Again, if you look at this comp with Kayle, Kindred, Sona, Taric, and Ziggs, like, the amount of, like, AoE coming out of either like AoE heals, or we've got a bunch of shields going down, the invulnerability,
damage,
like
yeah.
Kayle ultimate and Taric ultimate, and
Kindred ultimate.
And Kindred ultimate. At some point, there's
That's
just
gonna
too
be
much
disgusting.
invulnerability.
If only we had a Silas in the game as well, just stealing them away in
Like,
team fights.
this comp sounds really cool on paper, but the practicality is what I'll be watching. I'm gonna watch how do they layer their cooldowns, because if you have everyone invulnerable all at the same time, like Taric ultimate with Kindred ultimate, I'm like, that's just wasted. You could have had something else there. So watching the team fight, see if they're chaining together these long cooldowns to make themselves these team fighting gods.
Have to look for that maximum efficiency in the team fighting. We talked a bit about DFM. Let's have a look at the other side of the Rift. Mega coming from the LST from Southeast Asia with a lot of very well-known players. And mostly, actually, our preparation is focused on Jjun because he seems to be the guy that makes this team pop.
But it's so important to recognize how new Jjun is to the team, and that he could be exploited. You know, there is a language barrier. Sometimes it looks like there's a bit of miscommunication, that they're not all on the same page. A couple of times when they did fall down in gold twice. Now, these guys haven't dropped a map. They are undefeated, so definitely on a hot streak heading into this tournament. But I believe Jjun's only been on the team for like a month before they went into the National League tournament, so very fresh, very new. And sometimes it looked like indecision, like we're 5K gold ahead, we need to pull the trigger, we need to force a fight, but there was some hesitation there. So I think that if you're a Mega fan, you want them to have hard engaged tools on multiple members. This time around, it's really just on Jjun, and then it's kind of like the cleanup crew. Like, think about how this team fight works. You got Viktor, Jarvan, Akali, Tristana, and Braum. You know, if this turns into like a massive free-for-all, you have a lot of agency on these players. You know, they can each dip and dash around. You don't need someone zoning for the Tristana. She could just leave anytime she really wants to, blow someone away. But if Akali gets to that backline and starts setting up janitorial, like Goomba stomping for Tristana, these can very quickly get torn apart. I think that's what they want. They want not necessarily a big 5v5. If all 10 players are there, that's fine, but make it like a 2v2, a 3v3, split these fights, cause some chaos.
And if you can split up those invulnerability ultimates from the side of DFM as well, that makes it a lot easier to fight through this comp. But however, you do have the Kindred ult saving time for the Taric ult, saving time for the Kayle ult if they need to come down. So I'm very excited for team fights if they ever happen, because it's going to be a cluster of incredibleness. I have to see if they do. We are going to jump back onto the Summoners Rift, just a brief pause to get Group B underway. It was just too exciting to give to you all at once, but now we are ready for the action.
Just felt like a marathon there, but here we go. Again, looking on how Jjun, I expect him to be the tempo setter in this jungle. Steel, I feel like he is the weakest jungler. He has a lot to prove to me personally, but maybe on the Kindred he's going to feel comfortable. Kindred has a very strong level 2. I kind of feel like if Kindred finds you first and saves her ability to kind of like somersault out of your engage, she just like auto wins, because your your ranged auto attacks are so strong early levels. But obviously, if Jarvan ever gets on top of her, connects with the EQ, then things can go sideways very quickly.
It's who catches whom out in the jungle, you have to fear. Looks like Jjun is going to start down towards the bottom side with his bottom lane. Might actually only be Pop who comes across the camera hand. Concussive blows, pretty powerful at early levels to help out your jungler, whereas Steel will start top, but G4 did get a ward in, so we'll be able to track his enemy jungler for the moment.
Now, expect G4 on this Akali to get shoved in. Obviously, if he finds the opportunity to walk up to him, slam him with the Q, that'd be nice, but it's a little bit hard against Ziggs.
It's going to be incredibly hard, and you have to remember the Ziggs passive as well. That short fuse, giving those empowered auto attacks every 12 seconds or so, actually makes it really difficult for the Akali in the lane. G4 is going to have a little bit of a time on the struggle bus early on, you have to feel. Now, Jjun, level 2 gank in the bottom lane. This is what you want to do to put a Sona-Taric behind, but there is that barrier on the Sona and the heal on Gaeng. The dazzle comes out for the wave, clear flash in from Jjun, flash away. Jjun very, very quick, pulling the trigger on that summoner spell, but DFM were quick to react as well.
Yeah, but now we'll see if he has the repeat gank if this lane gets pushed in and they're unable to punish that flashless Sona if she's just hiding under her tower. I do want to say it felt like that should have been led by Pop a little bit more, but obviously because he wasn't level 2, couldn't just jump to the creep.
Now, Steel does know that Jjun is here. That sweeper didn't quite catch out the ward, but I believe that was a marked scuttle crab that has gone down, so Steel won't be able to get the early mark from the jungle that sometimes you can on a Kindred.
It's going to be harder to contest for a lot of these Scuttle Crabs, though, because he's not going to have control or free control over the river because his bot lane is Sona-Taric. So, and you can see how top lane's going for him. So it feels like Steel wants his marks where he can actually utilize the Ziggs pressure to actually get access to them.
Part of that will be waiting for Ziggs to get something like the Lost Chapter as well. Be able to spam out those spells a little bit more. Can be quite difficult. Ceros has gone for the heal in the mid lane, gives himself a little bit more safety against G4, but does mean that Mega have a double teleport to single teleport advantage, and we'll see if that plays out as the game does progress.
Yeah, a lot of respect, Ceros taking that heal, making sure that, okay, I'm against an Akali, things are probably going to get pretty fresh post level 6, so I'll buckle up for this one and take the defensive summoner.
Sometimes you have to make those sacrifices. Of course, like as a Ziggs, you probably want to be taking the teleport generally, just so you can get back into the lane quickly and push it up.
When we used to see Ziggs, a lot of it was the barrier, but I feel like he also wants the utility from the movement speed. Like maybe we get some cool satchel plays where he needs to run back to his satchel.
We will see. Not really too much going on as of yet, apart from that early gank from Jjun. Haven't seen him going back towards the bottom side, but now that is where his jungle is respawning. So he is going to be down towards those Razorbeaks, towards those Krugs. And there's always the possibility of a gank into a Sona-Taric. We talked about the fact they can get pushed in early on. That seems to be what's happening. But in terms of CS, in terms of gold in that bottom lane, we're probably pretty much even.
And it's, again, they're not here to win the lane phase. They're here to get out of the lane phase as smoothly as possible. Sona really finds a lot of her teeth when she has access to things like the Lich Bane. She can actually do a lot of surprising damage. So it's not just about the defensive nature of this team fight, as Steel's also peeking his head down here. I think he's just buying some space for Yutapon and Gaeng down there.
Yeah, it's more of a tracking positioning, isn't it? Like, just in case Jjun has decided to come down towards this bottom side, neither jungler really going to be able to do too much in the early game. First, Dragon is going to be a Cloud as well, so no real impetus for either of these teams to, up the tempo, up the pace as of yet.
And you have to think that that really suits Detonation focus game. They don't want to get into a lot of early fights, so things like early Cloud Dragons probably feels pretty healthy that there's no, like you're saying, onus on them to walk out into that river and contest.
And we do see Yutapon go back and get that first upgrade. Frostbang now finished on the Sona. We'll see her continuing with that poke. Let's have a quick look at how far she is along the quest line. 206 gold earned so far. Need 450 from that support item to get the quest upgrade, and then we'll start seeing Yutapon go for those minions.
And I think a big issue in slowing down how confident he felt to step forward was, of course, losing that flash so early on. You don't want to take as many aggro trades unless you have perfect information on where Jjun's going to be hanging around.
So this is an interesting one. We've seen Steel actually stay around this river for quite a while. Jjun and Popper waiting around the corner to see perhaps if they can catch out Steel as he goes for this mark on the Scuttle Crab. But the Sona-Taric are down towards that bottom side, can rotate pretty quickly. I think Mega are just going to accept that they can't really do too much around this Crab, and Steel will get his first mark of the game.
I actually think this is pretty significant, and it was based off of back timers. So again, Lloyd and Pop were having the push priority into that lane. Now Yutapon's going to have access to his flash pretty similarly, but the fact that Sona-Taric got easy backs in, got to the lane first, were able to shove it forward and allow Steel that space to walk into river.
And that's exactly what you want if you are playing the Kindred early on. You need to get these marks stacking up. A lot of people talk about you want to get towards that 4-mark stack as quickly as possible, get the extra 75 range. It just gives you so much more pressure in teamfights, so much more ability to jump around fights as well.
And that actually means a lot more for this team comp in particular, because you could say that, maybe they are lackluster on some of that damage. If Ceros' skill shots aren't landing, it's Sona versus a traditional scaling ADC. So having a carry-oriented Kindred, if Kindred gets really big, can be very important to how these team fights play out and how many damage hits they have access to.
Yeah, we haven't always seen Kindred's really dominating in Group A. Usually they were kind of the secondary AD carry threat. Here, Steel is actually running the Conqueror on the Kindred. We have seen some press the attacks. The Conqueror just gives you that little bit more in, prolonged trades.
And it's about kind of like, do you want the burst on the press the attack? I know that Azael feels really strongly on this one about how press the attack, I think its damage is a little bit underrated and how much it can surprise you, but you can understand the concepts for both.
Either way makes sense.
I'm like Hail of Blades on every champion.
Look, stop talking to Ender so much, okay? I know he loves Hail of Blades, but it doesn't work on everyone. The amount of times in solo queue you've just picked like Hail of Blades Pike. It's like, that doesn't work.
Kindred was a thing.
It was. Because you could get the stacks up, the Mountain Dread incredibly quickly.
Yeah, it's just like the drive-by.
Did work out, give you quite a bit of burst. Now, Jjun and Pop going for the invade here, have a control ward in towards this blue buff, and you can see Lloyd not really struggling in the 2v1 in the bottom lane. This is the weakness of Sona-Taric, is they can't really threaten you too much before they get towards that level 6.
And this is actually really nice for Mega in that Pop is able to team up with Jjun. This is a team, I mean, we'll kind of repeat the same storyline for a lot of teams because it feels very similar for this group, but the supports love to team up with their junglers, not just in creating plays and opportunities for them, but on these scouting deep vision missions. Because again, Jjun wants to gain as much information about Steel as possible so he can adjust his path and kind of pick where he's going to hit on this map.
Definitely will. Evi actually not struggling too much in the top lane either. It feels like across the board, very even for all of these lanes. You know, there's a little advantage taken here or there, but it's still pretty close.
I actually think this is Rockky just respecting that he doesn't have jungle attention on his side of the map, and there's a possibility that Steel could be there, especially because his blue buff was stolen. So he's allowing himself to play weak side, to get shoved in, and to feel fine kind of sitting under his tower. He knows that there's no threat of dive, especially on the likes of the Viktor, and he has access to his flash.
After Jjun maybe goes for a gank here, I want to talk a little bit more about that weak side, strong side thing. So there's nomenclature we use, wording we use, but I want to break down exactly how one side of the map would be stronger than the other. Jjun is still staying around that bottom lane, looking for Yutapon and Gaeng to actually push a little bit too far forward. Hasn't gone for anything yet, and actually Steel's down there as well. G4 and Ceros trading in the mid lane, but bot lane is where the action's at. Yutapon lands the 3-man crescendo. Lloyd with a knockback. The buster shot jumps away with that rocket leap and will escape, but DFM in the right place at the right time with those reactions. Yeah,
managed to get double summoner spell the barrier as well as the heal for just the barrier of Yutapon, and with access still to Taric's ultimate as well as Steel's, you can see the confidence that they're just gonna rock up into river, and we thought that this was gonna be slow paced, but they're like, nah, just take the cloud, it's free right now.
Looks like G4's
I say that.
across. Yeah, it's not too free. Of course, they have a huge amount of sustain with the Starlight's touch and the hymn of aria of perseverance coming out from the Sona. Just quickly, before we talk any more about this game, there is a reminder, Group A tiebreaker game. It's going to be between PVB and Fenerbahce, and that will take place at the end of today. So we have this game, 3 more games from Group B, and then we have the tiebreaker game from Group A.
So the big shift of power there, why they respected the Cloud Dragon so much, despite having access to key ultimates, was Ceros didn't have his mana pool. He had expended it entirely to farm off that wave, and needed to take the back. So respecting the communication from the mid laner and saying, Ziggs not ready to fight, we're not gonna die over Cloud, back off.
As we have a lull in the game, Frosk, weak and strong sides of the map. Explain to me how we can judge one side of this map as the strong side, how we can judge one side of the map as the weak side, and what that actually means for these teams.
So it starts with priority through pushing usually, or priority through kill pressure. So right now, the strong side of the map is the top side of the map for Mega, simply because they have the pushing pressure that Viktor is super far forward in the lane, pushing Evi under his tower, and they also have the numbers advantage because they swapped Lloyd and Pop up here to have access over the Rift Herald. So right now, there's really nothing that DetonatioN Focus Me can do on Mega's strong side of the map, which is top, so they actually need to either look for a trade, or maybe they take a dragon. In fact, you see the on the way pings, looks like they're gonna do the dragon.
So you can always just count how many people are on one side of the map at any given time and say, well, top side has 4 people, bot side has 4 people from the enemy team, bot side is strong for DFM, and top side is strong for Mega.
And that's also just a very simplistic way to look at it. It can get more complex about how certain matchups work, but sometimes it is as simple as just basic math.
Well, Mega used the basic math in their favor, got the Rift Herald, pushed in with it, get all of the plates in the top lane, equalize that gold score, and they're actually going to keep pushing just a little bit more, get another charge out from that Rift Herald. Meanwhile, in the bottom side, DFM get the Cloud Drake, and a couple of plates from bot lane, but Sona-Taric not the best at taking towers early on.
But they are very good at diving towers if Rockky isn't respectful and feeling how confident that DetonatioN Focus Me are going to be, but I actually really like this response from Pop, and a very conservative backup from DetonatioN Focus Me.
Yeah, just retreating as soon as they thought anything might be happening. Double tiers are finished in that bottom lane. Usually you see Sona go up towards something like the Seraphs into Lichbane for that little bit of extra AP. Taric can go a multitude of different ways, usually just supportive items. On the other side of the Rift, it's Hextech Gunblade on its way for G4, and it looks to be an Infinity Edge on its way for Lloyd as well.
And I feel like this is actually where things can get really scary for DetonatioN Focus Me's composition. It feels like they're in a bit of a power trough right now. They're waiting on other key items to come in before they want to start grouping up and being successful in fights. Whereas on an open map like this, like this can be hunting grounds for Mega. Akali is really looking to getting out to one of these side lanes, especially a very long one, and starting to find some prey. So I expect to see the swap come in. You can even see Rocky's already moved to the mid lane, and G4 to now start either walking up top lane or just hunting through the river.
Yeah, now that you've completed that first item in the form of the Hextech Gunblade, you have so much more power. And we did say in Pick and Ban, you know, DFM are on a timer. When they get to that 20-25 minute mark, those 2-3 items, they are going to be incredibly strong, incredibly hard to deal with. Mega, at some point in the next 10 to 15 minutes, do need to start breaking these lanes, breaking DFM's economy.
I want to say, as long as DFM can execute on their composition,
yes,
because there is a very...
assuming they play the composition the way it should be played.
There is such thing as too much of a good thing. So if you press all your buttons at the same time, that's not going to work for this team fight.
You probably get one kill, you know, crescendo into just auto attacks coming out from the Kayle. You can see Evi, level 10, has the first rank of those flaming blades, but doesn't have the range auto attacks as of yet. Not going to be dealing too much damage to any White Walkers that might come his way. Mega grouping up towards this bottom lane, G4 on his way down. Yeah,
they're cheating a little bit for a dive. I hope that they don't dive, instead they just pressure the tower, because you can see with the reach of Ziggs' ultimate, as well as just the defensive nature of Sona and Taric, this is still very precarious to dive.
Yeah,
so
G4's actually pushed all the way into the jungle here. Steel's going to clear it out. There's so much vision control from both the teams around here, and you can see Mega decide not to go for the dive. Instead, they bring Jjun and G4 up towards this mid lane.
And I love the options that Mega are kind of sizing up right now. They know that they need to use their advantageous member, the fact that Rockky is rotating, catching waves, that they had the kill pressure there on the Akali, so they can start forcing Ziggs back against his tower, and they're just cheating for pressure. You know, is this going to equal chip damage on the bottom tower? Is this going to equal chip damage on the mid tower? And then hopefully that they catch someone out. Mega are on the hunt. They're looking for something to break this game open, whether that's a pick or a dive, whatever iteration it takes form in.
However, Detonation focused me very good at delaying games, very good at not getting caught out, not having the enemy actually finding those picks, and that's how they won the LJL. Here they're doing it once again, 15 minutes in, they are only scaling, yet to have a kill, yet to really have too much impact from either of these teams.
That said, Mega are also fine. I have a feeling that they'll probably play for first item on Trist. Maybe she goes for the Infinity Edge. That'll tell me that, again, they're going to be looking for fights. If instead of going for Eye Edge, she completes her Zeal item, then it tells me that they're going to start rotating Lloyd around and taking structures.
Towers, yeah. That explosive shot can just help you out taking towers incredibly quickly.
And this will be the call here. So Trist, sitting on his flat AD items, has the dagger. Will it be Zeal? Will it be Infinity Edge?
It's Infinity Edge.
They're gonna fight.
I like that. I like it when teams decide to fight. Honestly, when you said maybe they'll just rotate and take towers, my face dropped a little bit faster.
And the reasoning is a lot of teams will have the flat AD and then the attack speed from the Zeal. And so because you can't crit the tower, you just have higher attack speed to push it down versus the battle stats from the Eye Edge. Although there is an interesting build running around where Jjun's like stacking all these Infinity Edges.
Yes, because the flat AD is just worth it.
Because it's such a cost-efficient item.
On Jjun.
I would love to see like triple Infinity Edges in.
It's very powerful on Jjun. Obviously, much stronger on 9.9 as well when the Jjun buffs did come through. Now DFM looking for a fight in the bottom lane. Jjun's going to run away, Steel on the chase, but no real chase potential from DFM. It's much more about letting Mega fight you rather than being able to engage the fight yourself.
Now, their ability to walk back opponents. Now, what they're waiting for is G4, which is why Mega are being very patient with how they're posturing around this fight. But since it is an Infernal, things should come crashing together here.
Here we go. Rocky's up towards the top lane, has the teleport. 3,000 HP on that Infernal. Teleport coming in from Rockky. G4 on the wrong side of the fight, but we've used the Twilight Shroud. 3,000 HP still on the Infernal as it targets out Mega. G4 force to one side. Crescendo comes out. There's the Glacial Fissure as well. Mega Inferno Bomb hits all of Mega. There's a lot of damage coming out as Evi now trading on towards the Infernal. It's taken by Pop, by Mega. The Braum takes the Infernal, steals it away, and DFM now just trying to chase for something. Lloyd caught out just a little bit. The flash is coming in. First blood to Evi, but DFM were unable to get the Infernal. Mega stole it away.
They may have lost the Infernal, but they do have the creep around them, so they get the first blood as on Kayle of all things, as well as the tower, and they can possibly push through here because they're delaying a lot of the backs.
I did ask you when the Kayle would really come online. It seems like Trinity Force and level 11 is doing a huge amount of work here for Evi. The carry of the team so consistently. He'll force G4 back. It's a big minion wave. DFM looking for their second tower of the push. Have the satchel charge as well just to help out. Get that little bit of final damage. And Detonation Focus Me will take a 2,500 gold lead at the 17-minute mark.
They just sit quietly and wait. They scale through their lanes. They're set up. They're ready to team fight. And then they bring in their star player, Evi, and then just clean the fight. I actually thought that things were going to be really scary because so many ultimates were used on Detonation Focus Me without access to the kill. You can see that they used the Sona ultimate, they used the Mega Inferno Bomb, and they just had access to Lamb's Respite and Taric, but the confidence to push forward after losing the Infernal and chase down the kill.
The problem is here for Mega, like how do you fight the rest of the ultimates on Detonation Focus Me? They've still got Lamb's Respite, they've still got the Divine Judgment, the Kayle ultimate, and they've still got the Cosmic Radiance coming out from the Taric. If you ever try and fight them after taking that Inferno, you just don't have the damage to burst through all of that invulnerability.
I think you just try to snap, turn, and see what you get, but it felt like the call was, we've got the Infernal, now get the hell out.
Pop was able to steal that away. Good stuff from him, but the rest of Mega unable to do too much in that final fight. Now they're pushing towards that mid lane, looking for the second tower of the game for themselves. Not going to be able to get it. And Evi, well and truly online on this Kayle. He's going to be put in his side lane to try and deal with Rockky.
I feel like the most frustrating part, though, is Ceros now, who Ziggs at this point is just going to free clear the waves. He's got the blue buff, and he can just be a massive roadblock. Like, as long as Ziggs is alive and has the wave clear, you will not cross this line. So I like that Mega are deciding to kind of split up the map, saying we cannot deal with this. Let's try to attack into our side lanes.
Yeah, Mega going for the 1-3-1, putting Rockky in a side lane, putting G4 up towards that top side as well, but they do lose that mid lane tower because of it. Detonation Focus Me happy just to group up.
And this may be the only option. It could be that the more team fights that we see between these teams, that Mega come to the conclusion that they can't just group up and force the 5v5, so they start playing to those side lanes more, which is why it's so detrimental for them that it was Evi that got that first blood, that he's feeling so comfortable on that Kayle because he can just match them into that side lane, and then suddenly what are your win conditions?
Well, Mega now trying to group up and take down this mid lane tower. Just to remind you all, after this Mega Inferno Bomb comes down and the wave is cleared, due to a mourning period taking place in Vietnam, Group B will play their last 8 games and eventual tiebreaker games on the 5th of May. So it's in a couple of days' time. Going to be a little while before we see this group complete its cycle, and it also gives the teams just a little bit of time to, maybe look over a few VODs, see exactly how they made mistakes on the first day of groups.
I think it's really interesting how the tournament format structure is there. I think that it felt like it was how you played on the day because there were so many games that packed in. If you're just having an incredible day, you can have an incredible tournament, but now that there is a little bit of that space, it now starts going into kind of the strategy. How do you prepare, kind of changing the dynamics about how you want to take down your opponent.
And teams will, of course, still be playing 4 games on that final day, so there's a lot riding on it. And a lot riding on this game as well. Taking the first blood, the first victory in a group like this can really set the momentum for your team. And for a team like Detonation Focus Me, who've always kind of been on the cusp, going like 2-4, getting a couple of wins here and there, winning this game in a group that doesn't seem too obvious, like favorites, could be really good.
I had a lot of questions about Detonation Focus Me, and I'm actually getting an answer. I was afraid that this team would actually just get blown out in the lane phase, that they'd take the skill check, that they would lose it, and they would never get to showcase their team fighting, their play style that made them such a powerhouse in Japan. And I thought of all teams, it would be Mega to do it, but I was proven wrong today for Detonation Focus Me. They managed to survive the lane phase. They're now in their comfortable pocket, and we'll see what kind of decision makings that they make around the map of how they're able to curate these team fights and force Mega to check into them.
Yeah, they still need to play these team fights pretty darn well to take down Megas. Mega's team fighting is nothing to be sniffed at. Detonation Focus Me with a slight gold lead, grouping up as a 5-man mid. G4's down towards the bottom side of this, could come up through the river, but it's an Inferno Drake once again, and that's all DFM want. They get the push prio mid, they now move in, clear out any vision that they can, and look towards this dragon.
And now you're dealing with the vision control of Sona-Taric, which is something that we don't often get to talk about. We talk about how it's impossible to break them, all of the heals, all of the shield, but their vision control, their map control, because you're placing that many wards, is also a huge factor.
DFM starting up this Inferno. G4's up towards the top side of it. Ziggs pushing in mid. Lots of damage coming out. The Unbreakable used there as well. It means can't be used to stop the crescendo. All ultimate still available for Detonation Focus Me as they turn towards the Inferno. It resets. Mega able just to chip away, able to poke, but look at the damage they're taking. Look at the healing on Detonation Focus Me. No one down below any health at all. They're all sitting up at full, and Mega realize you just can't do anything against that. They don't have the Grievous Wounds. They have no Executioner's Callings. They don't have a Morello Nomicon. They have no way to deal with this Sona-Taric at the moment.
And I have a feeling, I have a question if they're going to continue to look for this pincer maneuver. You see that G4 is constantly skirting up on the other side opposite his team, obviously looking for the assassination. You know, maybe Sona's a little bit too far away from the Taric. Maybe he can try to get out of crescendo or just push her out of a fight before they're able to stack.
Oh, Rockky flashes away, but a great flash follow from Gaeng. The Mega Inferno Bomb lands on the head of Rockky, and he is forced away. The Cosmic Radiance keeping all of Detonation Focus Me alive, and Mega forced back. Not really too much they can do. We'll start to see the healing coming out from DFM as they reset the fight. Yeah,
but what's the decision-making going to be? Are they going to turn towards the Baron? It looks like they're going to clear out their waves, a lot of pings going on, and probably massive items coming through.
Ziggs is sitting on 2,000 gold right now. We can see this is just Rockky stepping a little bit too far.
And just the instantaneous flash lock there, really nicely done from Taric to hit that angle and make sure that he could lock down Viktor. I think a little bit overzealous. I think they expected that, okay, one of our members got caught up, maybe Mega will pull the trigger and jump on us. Don't think they needed to spam all those ultimates down.
So what I did like about it, although I agree that they didn't need to use them all in that moment, they did time them well. The Kindred ultimate came down, then the Taric ultimate was used, which meant as the Kindred ultimate went off cooldown, when the invulnerability stopped, then the Cosmic Radiance came in and you had that second layer of invulnerability.
I think it determined their decision-making that they weren't immediately going to run to an objective, that it was find the pick and then reset the map.
Definitely did. We talked about the timer at the start of the game for Detonation Focus Me. Well, the clock is ticking now for Mega. DFM sitting at 2 items across the board. Mega really need to find an avenue of approach. You now do have that Executioner's Calling. You've got the Morello Nomicon on its way as well.
And there is possibility that in this team fight, Viktor's a very kind of like low econ champion. He doesn't need a lot of gold to do a lot of damage because of how cost efficient his hex core can be. Like, think about this. If you get Jarvan ultimate and then you just slam down some Viktor damage in there, just like spread all that AoE around, that can be pretty devastating. But again, it's about playing around Detonation Focus Me's cooldowns, which I think is going to be the tricky part for Mega to problem solve these team fights.
So difficult. And when you're starting to get, some of these tanky items as well on people like Gaeng, it's not like you can knock him out before the Cosmic Radiance comes down. He now has the Abyssal Blast. A lot of your damage is magic damage on the side of Mega. You've only got the Tristana there doing AD. Steel building up some of that extra, AD. A little bit of Black Cleaver there as well.
Yeah, we wanted the damage Kindred coming out, and Steel is definitely delivering here.
Yeah. And I would say, he's not got his huge carry pants on. He's not looking at, a 3-4 item, but he's been 100% kill participation. It's just a low kill game.
And for all the criticisms that I've had of Steel and his early game pathing and kind of his influence in early game as a jungler, he is a team fighting jungler. Hold my breath though, Yutapon.
So this is G4 on Yutapon, and he doesn't take him below half health. That is a Sona he's trying to catch out. That is your assassin trying to kill a Sona, and you don't take her below half health. She's now back to full. And I think that is kind of the way that this game feels to be going.
I don't think Yutapon knew either, because he instantly procced his Archangels, and he was like, I don't know how much damage this is going to do to me. Not a lot.
Better safe than sorry, and he's still got 4 different ways of becoming invulnerable. Detonation Focus Me, start up the Baron, they turn the fight, the Glacial Fisher comes out from pop. Lloyd down towards this bottom side, forced away by DFM. The Mega Inferno Bomb connects, and Evi gets the kill. G4 has to jump across the wall, and Detonation Focus Me will turn straight back towards the Baron. Now,
that catch was actually huge. The only response that they have right now is to try to go for a steal while Viktor is hard pushing bottom.
The question is, does Rockky TP in? Jjun forced away, the Dazzle almost connected. He had to flash, G4 chased away by Evi. The KO damage is just indomitable, and Jjun continues to be zoned away by Ceros. Now, 4,000 HP left on the Baron. Jjun not going to get anywhere near it. Detonation Focus Me will get it, but the inhibitor tower is the focus here from Rockky. Will, I believe, just look to get this and then back away before we see Detonation Focus Me return to their base.
Huge there. The fact that he wasn't able to trade inhib, especially bottom inhib for the Baron, it's still a massive win for Detonation Focus Me. They can just reset this map, push out their side lanes, and then group up wherever they want.
And Evi is on the cusp of being unstoppable. Halfway to level 16, actually about 3/4 of the way now. Let's have another look at this. You see Pop disengaging, but then Oh, the satchel charge knocks Lloyd out of his jump.
And we're actually going to have a game where most of the members on Mega are going to end the game 0-0 and 0.
Yep.
And that basically tells the story of this. Detonation Focus Me picked a scaling composition. They got through the lanes, absolutely no problem, save for an early burnt flash. And now Mega have kind of missed their mark. They missed the window, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to attack.
Detonation Focus Me weathered any early game storm that could have come from Mega. Mega never really pulled the trigger. We never really saw that spark of ingenuity, that spark of fight. Apart from the first gank from Jjun down towards that bottom lane, I can't remember him having too much of an impact on the map. And now DFM pushing under inhibitor towers here. Evi, level 16. Waves of fire just sweeping away the minion wave in front of him. DFM just going to push towards this inhibitor tower. Ceros on his way. It's going to be a 5v5. G4 has returned, but the turret is going to go down. Evi pushing onto Rockky. The flash forward. There's the crescendo. Yutapon there in the middle of it all as well. As G4's forced back, they're just running for the hills. DFM have taken no damage whatsoever. They take the inhibitor. They might just be looking for the game.
Mega, you need to pick a moment to fight. It's do or die because these guys are not slowing down.
There's no point losing your Nexus if you don't think the fight is good enough. You just have to go for it.
They're waiting for the wave.
At some point, you've lost too much. The wave comes in, pulled back with the gravity well, but Evi just chases Rockky away once again. Sona's in the middle of it all as Jjun off towards the top side. First Nexus tower going to fall very rapidly. G4 trying to step forward, trying to push them back, but you gotta pull the trigger.
Mega,
you gotta go for it. There's your Nexus towers going down. You only have one more of those left.
Mega, the cooldowns are down. They don't have access to Ziggle. They don't have access to Sona. I think they're just saying, if we die here, the game is over. Let's see if they'll leave and take our chances later on. But it only looks worse. And Detonation Focus Me, they're not leaving.
You've still got Cosmic Radiance. You've still got Lamb's Respite. You still have Divine Judgment. You have 3 forms of invulnerability, and you're pushing forward. Evi continues to swipe away at Mega, and Lloyd can't do anything about it. He has to jump away. The Nexus Tower falls. Jjun lands the Cataclysm on 4 players, but you just can't do any damage. Rockky, however, has taken out Yutapon. Here's the Cosmic Radiance. Jjun forced low. The Lamb's Respite times out. Ceros gets him, and now it's just the Nexus to target. Gaeng flashing forward with the Dazzle. It's a double for Rockky, though. They're trying to turn it around. It's DFM just focusing down the Nexus. Evi's still alive on the backline. A triple kill for Rockky, but is that too little too late? Because Detonation Focus Me are focusing the Nexus.